Elements are, in my opinion, the most important thing about a coaster. A good coaster is a good combination of multiple types of unpredictable elements. I have only ridden a total of 77 coasters, so I may not be the most experienced, but there are still some good moments I've had on coasters, so here I am to give my opinion of the 15 best elements I've experienced. Before we start though, I want to give 2 honorable mentions that I thought were too good to leave out of the video. First of all, that corkscrew over the water on Great Bear, and secondly, that insanely intense vertical loop on Batwing. Number 15 might come as a surprise to a lot of people because I have the Sidewinder on Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis. First of all, you can't really see it coming because you go into the element just as you come out of the vertical loop, plus this thing is intense. Looking at it on camera, it looks kinda slow, but when you're actually there, you whip through that thing like it's nothing. Then as you're exiting the inversion, there's this insane head chopper with the lift hill that I know got me ducking, even though I was fully aware how safe the ride is. At number 14, we have the Zero G stall on Goliath at Six Flags Great America. Because of the fact that you're doing steel coaster elements on a wooden track, it feels just so awkward, but in a good way if that makes any sense. You also get tons of hang time on it, especially if you get some room, which makes up for the lack of airtime on the rest of the ride, one of the major complaints about Goliath. At 13 is Magnums Triangle Hills. Yeah, the best part of these things are the shaping. Because all Magnums track pieces were welded on site rather than designed with computers and prefabricated, the transitions had to be very simple, hence the triangular nature. Because of that shaping, you get absolutely yonked in every single hill, and it's one of the best coaster finales I've experienced. I do think that it's a bit overrated because the airtime isn't very sustained, but still, you can't deny that these airtime moments are just pure fun. 12 brings us to Max Force's Harlan roll. This is the third inversion of the ride, coming right out of the dog tongue at insane speed, making it the most whippy element in the park. It feels kind of like you were this tiny person and got attached to the inside of a wheel on a car in the interstate and just got to spin around once. I know that probably didn't make any sense, but it's the best explanation that I can give. Plus, that SNS design is smooth as butter. Number 11 is the pretzel loop on Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great America. While this is one of the smallest pretzel loops, it's still pretty insane. This is the second most intense coaster element I've ever experienced, and don't worry, we'll get to number 1 later on. But what's even better is just how sustained it is. It's one of those feelings where when it's happening, you're like, please, just stop. But right after, all you can say is, that was amazing. Plus, you can't beat that feeling of just staring down at the ground, barely able to keep your eyes open. Number 10 is the Flying Snake Dive on Stormrunner. Stormrunner is one of those coasters that doesn't just end at the launch. Later on, you have an element that manages to top that launch in the Flying Snake Dive. Essentially, what this element is a combination of 2 inversions. A heartliner that leads right into a dive loop, but you start at the very top of the dive loop. What makes this element even better is the elevation that you're at. You look down and it's just astonishing how far away from the ground you are. Number 9 is something that if you haven't ridden the ride, you wouldn't expect it to be on here. The element is the Helix on Wild One at Six Flags America. There's a reason that this element is shown in my intro. Because of how little banking there is, you can expect some insane lateral G-forces, so if you're riding with someone, make sure that you sit in the right seat, not the left seat, so you don't get crushed. They literally have to stabilize the structure with these thick cables so that the structure doesn't get torn apart. Also, the ride is still traveling at a decent speed and picks up even more speed in the Helix, so on a hot summer day you can get some bone-crushing positives. If you're a weak person, you're sure to at least gray out. Number 8 is the drop on Millennium Force. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a top 5 or maybe even top 3 drop in the entire world. There are just so many things that go into making it such a good moment. First of all, you're coming off that cable lift, so you already have a decent amount of speed, adding to that feeling of free fall. Then when you actually do drop, no matter where in the train you're sitting, you're going to get some of the most sustained flagector airtime on Earth with those intimate T-bars. But I would argue that isn't even the best thing. The best thing is that Lake Erie setting. If you've been living under a rock and didn't know, Millennium Force runs right up against the water, and when you get to the top, you can not only see all of Cedar Point, but you can see for miles and miles across Lake Erie. It's one of the most stunning views that you will ever find, period. Now we move across the park where we find the 7th best element, Top Thrill Dragster's launch. The build up to this thing is absolutely perfect. The queue line is positioned right between the launch and the return trip, so from the off you're immersed in the experience. That just builds the suspense not being able to ride, so when you get up to the ride and onto that launch track, you know what time it is. Your heart is pounding, that annoying guy in the background is telling you to put your arms down, which you obviously aren't going to do. You look over and you got a crowd watching you waiting for the launch. You wave at them like, man, is this thing ever going to go? 3, 2, 1, go. And you're off. 0 to 120 miles per hour in the blink of an eye. When you're going that fast, you might just get that feeling that nothing can ever stop you. And it's even better at night. At night, you got those lights surrounding you, and it's just a totally different atmosphere. Plus, you get that stoplight going down the tower at night, which is an incredible effect, one of the best night rides on Earth. The inverted top hat on Mr. Free's Reverse Blast at Six Flags St. Louis comes in at number 6. This is single-handedly the most intense coaster element I've ever experienced. On camera it doesn't look like that much, but it is that much because first of all, it takes place right after that 0 to 70 miles per hour backwards launch, so you still have all that speed. And yes, that's right, you're going backwards through it. You also don't lose that much speed because that top hat is relatively tall, but it still is insanely tall. You just fly through it. If you have your hands up in there, they're going to be pushed down from the G's no matter how strong you are. There isn't a recorded G-force of it that I can find, but it has to be nearing 6, and that's not an exaggeration. At number 5, we come to Superman Ride of Seal's finale. I know that it's technically 3 separate airtime hills, but it kind of blends into one section, so I'm going to have it as one element. All I can say is airtime, airtime, and airtime. These are some of the greatest airtime moments on Earth, and all you have is those T-bars holding you in. And the whole time it looks as if you're not going to stop in time before hitting the station, which just adds to the greatness of the element. It's hard to comprehend what's going on when you're just getting thrown around all over the place. Number 4 is the launch on Max Force. Max Force, if you didn't know, is the quickest accelerating coaster in the Western Hemisphere, going 0 to 78 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds, and you 100% feel it. Basically, as soon as you launch, you head into that tunnel so you have no idea what's going on, and this just sets the table for what's going to be an extremely disorientating ride. Some people have complained about there not being enough build up to launch on Max Force, but I don't really mind because then you have no idea when you're going to launch. There's no countdown, there's no stoplight, you're just sitting there and all of a sudden it goes. It's a crazy feeling and you have to get out to Great America if you want to experience it. We're down to the top 3, and number 3, I've launched into the Zero G roll on Incredible Hulk in Universal's Islands of Adventure. Let me tell you, I rode Hulk for the first time in November 2016, 3 months after it had reopened, and at that point, I was not a coaster enthusiast. That meant that I had no idea what to expect from this. It was also the first thing I rode that day, so I hadn't seen it run yet. That meant that we were heading up the lift, and I thought it was just a normal lift hill, but enclosed for effects probably. We're getting towards the top, and all of a sudden, it just takes off. Man, I thought I was gonna die. I don't think I was able to talk for a good 5 minutes after the ride, but the element being surprising isn't what lands it here. It's really that since you get launched at 40 miles per hour, you're just absolutely whipped through that 0 G roll, and the launch matters a lot because the ride is only 110 feet tall, but it's able to get to almost 70 miles per hour because of the momentum you gain with that launch. Number 2 is the dog tongue double inversion of Max Force. We just talked about the launch, but I would argue that the element right after somehow tops it. This is the only element of its kind in the world, and if I had to equate to something, I would say that's like if American Togo attempted to design a Cobra roll, but it ended up being butter smooth. This thing is just so jacked up. You don't realize until you're actually on the ride just how high off the ground this thing is, 175 feet. Now that may not sound insane to us enthusiasts, but when you're feeling like you're falling out of your seat, getting insane hang time, looking straight down the ground, yeah, it's pretty tall. Just thinking about it brings joy to my head. Taking the top spot, we have another Superman Ride of Steel airtime moment, but this time it's a camelback that separates the two helixes. I don't know how you're able to take this element at such a speed, because right before there's a helix and then the straight track, but anyway, you absolutely fly into this thing. And what's even more insane than the speed is how tight the pull-up is. You are essentially traveling straight forward, and in the blink of an eye, it feels like you're going almost vertically. This creates some insane positive g-forces, and this is actually one of the only two elements I've ever grayed out on. Then it crests the hill and transitions downward at the same angle, giving some of the craziest negative G's you'll ever experience in your life. If this is sustained, I mean you're out of your seat for a ludicrous amount of time. Absurd positive G's straight into absurd negative G's in half a second is not something that you'll find on many coasters. Thank you guys for watching this video. Remember to leave your thoughts, suggestions, and video ideas in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later.